Gary from the Seer's Cave, and I'm recording this video as a response to a request from Pat Jenkins 13 with regard to dragons and dragon energy. And I've just completed an add-on video which I may share, where I attempt to channel from my guide and sort of, in a sense, get the answers directly from the dragon's mouth, which was an interesting experience, it has to be said, and has left me somewhat quiet, as you can probably tell. The questions that I was being asked by Pat were, in a sense, what are dragons? What do they represent? What energy or what elements do they embody? Where are they? How do we contact them? How do we work with dragon energy? All very interesting questions, and I think the first thing to cover is the fact that everyone the world over has heard of dragons. They've heard stories of scaly, fire-breathing creatures, some winged, some with sort of fish tails and fins, some with 2 legs, some with 4 legs. Pretty much the world over, dragons are symbolically known. But from the meditation that I did, the feeling seems to be that whilst everyone knows of them, very few people actually understand them, understand what they are, or moreover, how old they are. I mean, the information I got from my guide was that dragons are very, very old, and that they've been around for a long, long time, and also that they take a slightly different view of things to humans. Humans have a very short lifespan, even in the modern world, 100 years, maybe 110 years, if we're very lucky. Dragons have a much, much longer view of things. How old they are, how old any individual dragon is, I couldn't say. I wasn't given that information. But the feeling that I got very strongly is, you know, we're talking possibly millennia, possibly longer. We're talking about creatures that take a really, really long-term view of things, and it's almost akin to, in a way, how the moon. I'm trying to sort of rationalise this in my mind, which is not an easy thing to do when you talk of anything of a spiritual nature, but if you imagine the moon looking down at the earth and looking at all the people scampering around on the earth, the moon has been up there for billions of years, and well, a very, very long time at any rate. I'm no scientist, so I can't give you an exact date, but a long time. So if the moon were a sentient being, and it was looking down at the earth and looking down at the people on the earth, we would seem to be whizzing by like little specks of dust, you know, to this object, this being that it was really, really old and long in life. We see it ourselves a little bit as human beings when we look at creatures that have a much, much shorter lifespan than we do. They seem to be gone in an instant. So what I feel is that dragons have this very, very long-term view. In terms of how they sort of manifest in their energies and what have you, the information I got was to the effect that they embody all of the different elements, and again, this comes back to the sort of the stories that you hear. You know, there are dragons that fly, there are dragons that swim, there are dragons that, you know, walk on the land. Fire breathing seems to be a sort of a common common thread throughout all of the different dragon tales, if you'll pardon the obvious pun. So, if you're looking to work with a specific, or if you in yourself work with a specific elemental energy, for example, with myself, it tends to be fire. I work very strongly with fire energy. I'm a fire sign in my astrology, so fire and air tend to be my main sort of areas. But equally so, you know, there are people who work very strongly with earth energy, and that is something that dragons can work with. As to how to contact them, that's almost like asking, how do you contact the archangels? Because I believe what we are dealing with here are creatures that are at least as old, and they, you know, how do you contact any guide or protector or being on a spiritual level? So meditation, definitely meditation. I would suggest keeping the iconography around you. So, for example, I mean, I have a few different dragon things which I'll show you. For example, one of my favourite pieces is this, which is a statue that my mother bought me many, many years ago. It's called the Nordic Dragon. Now, in terms of my religious followings, my faith followings, the deities that I work with, among others, are the Norse gods. So, to be fair, a Nordic dragon was always going to be something that was an obvious choice for me. Interestingly, in Norse and in Greek mythologies, dragons turn up very seldomly. I mean, there are dragons in both. There is the dragon Nidhogg in Norse mythology, which is seen as a creature of destruction. And I have to say, I think, on a personal level, I think that dragons have had a bit of a bad rep, to use a bit of a slang term, really, in terms of their how people perceive them. They're seen as being cruel, they're seen as being destructive, they're seen as, I mean, quote unquote, evil. And that's never the feeling that I've had with them. And I don't think anybody who works with dragon energy has that feeling. They are just very old, very constant, very wise, very powerful creatures. And creatures that you have to respect. But equally so, they give that respect back. And they're definitely creatures to stretch out with your feelings to. Just going back to the mythology thing again, I mean, there are, in a sense, relatives of dragons. You have wyverns, you have Hydra. The Hydra is interesting because, of course, the Hydra turns up in the Jason and the Argonauts story, the Golden Fleece in particular. Hydra was a creature that was summoned to protect the fleece, and in a sense what you have is a seven-headed dragon. There are other instances of sort of multi-headed dragons. The goddess Tiamat, for example, is depicted as being this multi-headed dragon. Really, you know, it's a case of meditating. I would say to find them, look inwards. Really look. Think of it almost like an egg, and you have to see what's inside. And that's what I would say with dragons as well. Is look inwards, and once you do that and you connect, and believe me, if you genuinely look inwards and you ask, you will connect. Then you will start to see them out externally. I mean, my own guide dates back. The connection with me dates back probably to, well, almost to when I first became pagan, when I first went onto this path, and I have been aware of him externally. I always used to get this vision of him, and this is going to sound fanciful, to put it mildly, but on the street where I live, there are lampposts on the opposite side of the road, and I very often used to get this vision of him perched, almost impossibly, on top of one of these lampposts. So he was there keeping watch, and, you know, have felt him around me very, very strongly a few times. Equally so, there's been times when he stepped back and he's let me pursue other things. He's sort of kept, in a sense, a discreet distance. So it's not necessarily an energy that you're going to have around you all of the time. It would be in some ways selfish to expect it to be, or to expect them to be. But yeah, definitely, as I say, keep the iconography around you. I have a big thing for them. I mean, I have, get this on the camera, a ring, again, bought by my mum many years ago, and one that I got myself fairly recently, which I'll try to get the camera to see. There it is. And even my short staff is it's dragon related, as you can see. It's something that I feel a very strong connection to. There are, if you're into divination, and obviously that is predominantly what I do on this channel, then there are decks out there that you can use. For example, there's a couple of decks, and I have both of them. There's one of them, which is called the Imperial Dragon deck, and it's by Peter Prankonick, and the images on it are quite amazing, really. He really does sort of go to town. I mean, there is the sort of classic, I don't know if I can get the camera to show this, but there is the sort of classic dragon image, which is, you know, the sort of the destroyer. That's actually the tower card in that deck. There is a second deck which he created, which is a much smaller deck, as you can see, and is really a sort of a pip deck. But, you know, you can see the sort of what you've got there. You've got the kind of swords, but it's kind of interesting. So there are Dragon Tarot decks, and there are other ones that I don't have. I mean, there's, for example, there's another Dragons Tarot, which is Lo Scarabeo, and there's also the Celtic Dragons, which is another one that I don't have. One I do have, though, which isn't a tarot deck at all, it's actually an Oracle deck, is the Oracle of the Dragon Fae, and this is a mixture of sort of dragons and gods and goddesses and, oh, there we go, and people. Now, what's kind of interesting is that when dragons appear in this deck, I mean, they really do look quite amazing. Some of the people in this deck look incredible as well. As you can see there, you've got, in this case, the Lady Grian. There's an example of the pen. This one's called the Pendragon, which may or may not show up on the camera. There it is. So this one is by Lucy Cavendish, and it's worth looking out for. So yes, I mean, keep the sort of the images and the iconography around you, and really, you know, meditate on it and focus inwards. And you know, dragon's blood incense has a wonderful smell. If you, I mean, it just generally for meditation or for spell work or whatever, it has an amazing smell to it. So, you know, I mean, I do have some behind my little curtain here. You know, that's something else as well that you can look for. Look for sort of dragon-related crystals. This is something I've started doing now because I have a very, very strong pull with crystals as well. So definitely, you know, look for that. And just like with any other energy, like with angel energy or fey energy, just meditate, look inwards, and really try to ask for that connection to be made. And you know, it will definitely be made. So I'm not going to labour the point. I hope that's helped. If there's any other questions you'd like answered, anything I haven't covered, and as I say, I know I've been a little vague as to where they reside, but that's a difficult question to answer, and I sort of got a bit of an answer in my meditation that I did on the other video. It's a hard one to explain. I think it's more a case of knowing that they're there, rather than sort of the specifics of exactly where. It's a bit like asking the angels, well, where exactly do you live? Where are you? But anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've got something from it. Do feel free to leave me some comments and any further questions you may have. But more than that, try it. Really, you know, try to connect and let me know what your experiences are. I want to wish everyone a wonderful day, and especially Pat, who asked these questions, have a fantastic day. Enjoy, learn, and love, light, and blessings to all.